Hi, my name is Praveenya De Silva, and this reflective vlog critically evaluates my three interconnected workshops titled Sounds of Sri Lanka Exploring Intercultural Music Education Through Music, Rhythm, and Movement, inspired by Gajaga Vannama, which is also known as the Elephant Dance. These workshops were conducted at Little Ealing Primary School in London with a group of Year 5-8 students aged 10 years old as part of the Creative Workshopping for Education and Community Settings module. This reflective vlog critically reflects on the success of the workshops, the pedagogical approaches used, and my own personal professional development as a facilitator. Based on intercultural and creative learning, I decided to base my workshop series around Gajaga Vannama because it is one of the most expressive and rhythmically engaging traditional Sri Lankan musical forms. It represents the movement and strength of the elephant and combines rhythm, movement, storytelling, and musical expression. As a Sri Lankan music educator, I wanted to create an opportunity for children to engage with a non-Western musical tradition through active participation rather than simply learning about another culture theoretically. The overall aims of the workshop series were to introduce students to the Sri Lankan music and culture through Gajaga Vannama by developing singing, rhythm, and movement skills through creative music making, and to encourage collaboration, creativity, and self-expression. Also to promote intercultural understanding through practical and musical experiences. So in order to achieve all these aims, the workshops were designed around collaborative, embodied, and experiential learning approaches. This aligns with Kolb's theory of experiential learning and Lemon's concept of embodied musical learning. I also felt this theme was particularly suitable for Year 5 learners because children at this age respond positively to kinesthetic, imaginative, and interactive learning experiences. At the beginning of the workshops, I used an icebreaker activity for the students to move like an elephant. I introduced students to the melody of Gajaga Vannama by playing a recording and allowing them to listen carefully to the music. To engage them creatively from the outset, I conducted an icebreaker activity where all the students imagined different types of elephants depending on how music made them feel. Some became happy elephants, calm elephants, angry elephants, or energetic elephants. As the music played, the students moved around the room using imaginative elephant-inspired movements and gestures. Reflecting on this activity, I found it highly effective because it immediately encouraged participation, imagination, and embodied engagement. Students appeared comfortable and enthusiastic, which helped to establish a positive learning environment from the beginning. This activity demonstrated how movement can act as a bridge between listening and active musical participation. Based on the reflection on Workshop 1, the first workshop focused on vocal exploration and singing. I introduced students to the melody of Gajaga Vannama through imitation and repetition, breaking the melody into smaller sections before gradually combining larger phrases. This approach reflected principles of the Kodai method, which emphasized singing as the foundation of musical learning. I found that breaking the melody into manageable sections supported students' confidence and memory effectively. As the session progressed, the students became more secure with pitch matching and increasingly confident with singing as a group. To further develop musical expression, I divided the students into two groups and introduced dynamic contrast. One group sang loudly while the other sang softly before alternating roles. This activity was particularly successful because all the students enjoyed hearing the contrast between groups while also developing their understanding of expression, tone color, and musical communication. However, one challenge I identified was time management. As the session lasted only 30 minutes, I occasionally delivered all the instructions more quickly than intended. Reflecting critically on this, I realized that although students remained engaged, allowing additional time for repetition and individual support could have strengthened learning outcomes further. The session concluded with a short reflection of activity where students shared what they enjoyed and how they felt and one thing they had learned. This reflective discussion encouraged communication, self-awareness, and student voice. Drawing my focus on workshop 2, my second workshop focused on rhythm, body percussion, and percussion instruments. My aim was to develop students' understanding of pulse and rhythmic structure within Gajaga Vannama. To support learning visually, I provided color-coded and shape-coded rhythm materials connected to the melody introduced in workshop 1 as you see in this slide image. The color-coded rhythm sheets supported visual learning and also helped students in the same way to internalize rhythmic patterns more confidently. Students initially explored rhythm through clapping before progressing to body percussion patterns including clapping, stomping, snapping, and vocal sounds such as shh during the rests. I first modeled the patterns before encouraging students to contribute their own ideas. This collaborative process proved highly successful as all the students became increasingly engaged once they realized they could influence the musical outcome themselves. The workshop reflected the principles of offshore work through movement, rhythm, exploration, improvisation, and active music making. One of the most successful moments occurred as I see in this workshop when students selected percussion instruments such as maracas, shakers, triangles, and different kinds of drums to perform alongside live keyboard accompaniment. Students demonstrated strong collaboration, ensemble awareness, and musical confidence during this activity. A limitation of the session was that I was unable to complete the planned up rap duel improvisation activity due to time restrictions. Reflecting on this decision, I recognize the importance of flexibility in workshop delivery. Prioritizing the workshop in terms of percussion ensemble allowed students to engage more deeply with the activities they were enjoying the most. The workshop concluded with a reflective discussion where students shared their personal experiences and evaluated their learning. Based on the reflection of workshop 3, the final workshop focused on creative movement and performance. Students were given the opportunity to create their own choreography inspired by Gajaga Vannama and elephant movements. After listening to the music again, students worked collaboratively to develop imaginative movement ideas and group choreography. During this workshop, I intentionally adopted the role of facilitator rather than choreographer because I wanted the students to take ownership of the creative process. Reflecting on this approach, I found that student ownership significantly increased confidence, imagination, and collaborative participation. The workshop was particularly successful because students demonstrated creativity, teamwork, and independent decision making. One memorable moment occurred when students concluded their performance by shouting out so loud, saying elephant together, which reflected enthusiasm, creativity, and collective achievement. All of this is included in my evidence videos which I have submitted. This workshop strongly supported experiential learning and embodied learning because students learn through active participation, movement, and performance. It also highlighted the importance of student agency within creative arts education. The session concluded with a final reflective discussion where students evaluated the overall workshop series and shared how they felt about exploring Sri Lankan music through singing, rhythm, and movement. Based on the critical reflection on teaching methods, several pedagogical approaches inform the planning and delivery of these workshops. The Kodai approach was reflected through singing, imitation, repetition, and pitch development. Offshore work informed the use of body percussion, percussion instruments, movement, and improvisation. Social constructivist principles influenced by Vygotsky, which were evident through collaboration, peer learning, and shared creative experiences. Experiential learning, as discussed by Kolb, underpinned the entire workshop series through active participation, reflection, and practical exploration. Embodied learning, discussed by Liman, was also central because students engaged physically with music through movement, rhythm, and performance. Reflecting critically on all of these approaches, I found that combining practical, creative, and collaborative pedagogies created an inclusive and engaging learning environment that was highly appropriate for Year 5 learners. In terms of self-reflection and critical evaluation, overall, I believe the workshop series achieved its aim successfully. Students remained engaged, collaborative, and enthusiastic throughout all 3 workshops. One of my strengths as a facilitator was creating an encouraging environment where students felt comfortable expressing themselves creatively. My cultural connection to the material also contributed positively to the authenticity and enthusiasm of the workshops. However, critical reflection also revealed areas for improvement. Time management was a big challenge, particularly during workshops 1 and 2, where certain activities required adaptation or removal. In future workshops, I would allow more flexible timing and provide additional opportunities for repetition, improvisation, and reflection. I also learned the importance of responding to students' needs and energy levels rather than following a workshop plan too rigidly. Reflecting on my own contribution, I believe I developed significantly in confidence, adaptability, leadership, and facilitation skills throughout the process. This experience strengthened my own understanding of how creative and intercultural music education can support meaningful and inclusive learning experiences for children. In conclusion, this workshop series successfully introduced students to Sri Lankan music and culture through creative, collaborative, and embodied learning experiences. Through singing, rhythm, percussion, movement, and performance activities, students developed confidence, creativity, listening skills, teamwork, and musical understanding. This experience also contributed significantly to my own professional development by strengthening my reflective practice, facilitation skills, and understanding of intercultural music education. Overall, these workshops demonstrated how creative and intercultural music education can provide meaningful, engaging, and inclusive learning experiences for children. Thank you for watching.